Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your models have practically built themselves. Hello folks, it's Mad Dog Merv and welcome to Echoes from the Chalkboard. Today's going to be our South High School edition. Well, it's been a long time since I worked at South High School, but it's been a long time since I worked, but anyway, I digress. There used to be an East, a West, and a South High School in the Salt Lake City School District. And South High, well, it closed down quite a few years ago, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But we're going to look at that old building because it is still there, and it's now used by a community college. So without further ado, welcome to South High School on Echoes from the Chalkboard. Here's a great overhead view of South High School. South High School, well, the land was purchased and they started breaking ground in June of 1930. And there really was a need for another secondary high school. You had East and you had West, so this was going to be the third in that whole group. And the reason they called it South, well, it was kind of out at the south border of the school district at the time. Completed in September of 1931 and built on a 20.68 acre parcel of land at 1575 South State Street. The original building was 156,372 square feet, so pretty good sized building originally. Once it was added on to, of course, by 1965, it had grown to 284,000 square feet. So yeah, they added a little bit to this building. Here's a great shot of the front doors as built. And today, I got to tell you, it just looks grand and beautiful. It's now used by the Salt Lake City Community College. It's called their South Campus. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment. So, originally we talked about the original size of the building. It had actually been added on to in 1962, in 64, in 1970. And then a shop building was built behind it in 1950. But originally it did have a shop. The shops were underneath on the north end, and we'll see if we can point that out here in a picture in just a moment. This is the view that my dad would have had of the school because he lived right across the street on State Street. That's where my grandparents' house was. So here is a really neat picture that has not been out into circulation. This is in the school district archives. This is taken from Whittier Elementary School, which was right across the, right across the playground from South. But this shows the backside of South High School in about 1936. So this was before any of the additions. You can kind of see how it looked. Originally, the gymnasium was on the second floor of the building on the south end, which was very interesting that it was there. This is the north end of the building, and of course there was some additions here. I believe this was like the 62 or 64 edition was out here on the north side, but this is the north side. When I see this picture, though, it brings back a couple of very interesting personal memories for me. Number one is when I worked at South High as a day custodian back in the early to mid 80s. Well, to go to break every morning, we'd walk out that north end and go over to McDonald's because, well, McDonald's was right there, and what a great place to put a McDonald's. We'd have break there just about every day. Well, the other thing about that end is I do remember one day thinking that, hey, if I put in the amount of time I need to with the district to get me to age 65, that I would have 50 years of service. And that was almost a terrifying thought at that particular. Of course, I had a lot of great memories of working there at South High, but another one of them was mowing the front lawn. That was one of my duties, was to get out there on our little riding lawnmower. I would ride. I did a lot of the front, I did a lot of the sides, I did some of the back, and you really get to know a building and you really get to know a property when you have to maintain that property. course, back in the early days of my career, I was an explorer, and I loved to find out things. I was very curious about different parts of the building. Here is, I think it's now called the Grand Theater, but this was the auditorium as built. You can see up on the third floor the entrance to the balcony way in the back. Isn't that cool? This was absolutely one of the most extravagant theaters of its day. Absolutely beautiful place. Here's looking at the stage. Um, yeah, I remember thinking about what a beautiful, beautiful place this was. And I got a lot of opportunities to go and explore under the stage and some of the areas that most people didn't get to go. It was great to be able to work there. So here's a blown up version of that earlier photo that shows the back end of South High School. You can see the big grand auditorium there, but behind there seems to be a structure. And what that is, well, that's the band room, the choral rooms, and here it is, as built, the choral room. These, oh man, I remember that room. Although that wood floor was gone, it was carpeted by the time I got there to work, but I remember vacuuming this room. But isn't that an amazing looking choral room? And that beautiful natural light coming through there. So let's look at some of the other interior parts of this building. The new main gym, and I can't remember what year this was built. I want to say 64 or 62, maybe 70, shoot. I can't remember which edition this was. But anyway, the gym, the new gym or field house as you want to call it, weight rooms, different things in there, and the pool area. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But great picture of the gym. The ramps. So instead of staircases in the center of the building, you had these ramps. And what was so fun about these ramps is when I was there, well, they were tiled. And so we would ride our garbage cart all the way down from one floor to the other and try to make that curve there without wiping out. And that was a real trick, and you'd really get going. Of course, as we'd make that corner, we left some real bad black marks, and we'd have to go back, clean those up. So here is the pool area as built in the 1960s. Unfortunately, I don't have any interior shots of the pool. I'll see if I can find some of those in another video, but for right now, we just kind of have this. So on the south end of the building, you had the pool. You had the pool foyer area here. You had the big cafeteria that was added just to the left of this photo, and of course the gym that was added. So made it a whole lot bigger building than. Well, that's just a quick view, folks. Stick with us for another installment on South High School one of these days. Thanks for joining us today.